These are 5 acoustic guitar brands that take your money without giving you a guitar worth keeping, and 3 that will outlast you if you let them. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which is which, and why the difference comes down to one decision most buyers never think about before they walk into the store. The one thing that separates a lifetime guitar from a disposable one. Before the brands, one fact. In 2021, Americans bought 1.85 million acoustic guitars. The average price paid was $590. That is a lot of money for a lot of guitars. And a significant portion of those purchases were instruments that will never sound better than the day they left the factory. Instruments that will never open up with age, never develop tone, never reward the player who sticks with them for decades. The reason almost always comes down to one thing: whether the top of the guitar is solid wood or laminate. A solid top is a single piece of tone wood. Spruce, cedar, mahogany, cut and shaped to vibrate freely. It resonates differently at every frequency. It responds to how hard or soft you play. And over years and decades of being played, it opens up. The wood fibers loosen and align in ways that make the instrument louder, warmer, and more complex. A guitar built on a solid top in 1975 sounds better today than it did new. Laminate is different. Laminate is thin layers of wood glued together, cross-grained like plywood with a wood veneer on top. It is cheaper to produce, more resistant to humidity changes, and structurally consistent, but it does not vibrate the same way. The compressed layers restrict resonance. The tone is more uniform, more compressed, and it does not improve. A laminate guitar sounds the same on day 1 as it does on day 5,000. That is not an opinion. That is what the wood does. The second thing you need to know before the brands is how to check for yourself in any store. Look at the edge of the sound hole, the inside ring where the top meets the hole. If the wood grain runs continuously vertically as a single uninterrupted piece, it is solid wood. If you see thin horizontal layers stacked like plywood, it is laminate. Some guitars use binding or inserts around the sound hole specifically to hide this cross-section. That alone should tell you something. Now, the 5 brands you should think carefully about, and 3 that will last a lifetime. The 5 brands to approach with caution. Brand number 1, Rogue. Rogue is the most honest entry on this list because it does not pretend to be something it is not. It is a budget line introduced in the mid-1990s and sold through Musician's Friend and Guitar Center. Starter acoustics run roughly $50 to $70. The problem is not that Rogue exists. The problem is that at $50 to $70, a Rogue acoustic frequently leaves the factory with action so high that playing it for more than 10 minutes causes real pain. The tuners do not hold pitch. The neck width is inconsistent. Fret buzz is common across positions. One owner put it plainly: a $60 Rogue needs at least $200 in parts and labor before it becomes a playable instrument. That is a $260 guitar that sounds like a $60 guitar. You would have been better off spending $200 to start. The deeper issue is not the money, it is the discouragement. A beginner who picks up a Rogue with action that high, who cannot get the thing to stay in tune, who buzzes every chord, that beginner often concludes that they are bad at guitar. They are not bad at guitar, they have a bad guitar. The teacher consensus is consistent. If you are buying a first acoustic guitar and your budget is under $150, spend every dollar you have on the lowest tier Yamaha or Fender instead of a Rogue. The difference in playability is not small, and playability is the only thing that matters in the first 6 months. First Act and Maestro, Gibson's own entry-level brand, fall into the same category. These are the department store and big box store instruments that belong more in the toy aisle than behind a guitar stand. The action is wrong, the intonation is wrong, and the experience of playing them does not teach a beginner anything useful about what a guitar is supposed to feel like. Brand number 2, Jasmine by Takamine. This one requires context, because the Takamine name is respected, and Jasmine traded on that name for years. Jasmine was Takamine's budget line. Originally built in Korea and later China, the line was designed around price points that Takamine's Japanese production could not reach. The relationship between the two brands was always more about licensing than manufacturing lineage. Around 2005, ownership of the Jasmine line shifted to KMC Music. By around 2017, Takamine stopped branding Jasmine with its logo entirely. The Jasmine S35 Dreadnought, their flagship budget model, has been an Amazon bestseller for years. It is under $120. And for what it is not a disaster. but what it is matters. The S35 has a laminated spruce top, NATO back and sides, and no path to becoming a better guitar over time. It is a laminate instrument at a laminate price, which is fine if you know that going in. The issue is the Takamine association, a buyer who sees Jasmine by Takamine and assumes they are getting a piece of the Japanese Takamine legacy is making a mistake that costs them clarity about what they are actually purchasing. One luthier, who reviewed the line, described a very low opinion of the Jasmine series for durability under regular use. That is not a damning verdict. It is a warning about expectations. A Jasmine S35 is a beater guitar, a camping guitar, a guitar for a child who might lose interest by spring. It is not a guitar that will grow with a player who gets serious. Brand number 3, Orangewood. Orangewood is the newest brand on this list and the most interesting case study in modern guitar marketing. Founded between 2017 and 2018 by brothers Eddie and Suge Park in Los Angeles, Orangewood was built on the direct-to-consumer model. No retail markup, no middlemen, designed in LA, manufactured in China and Indonesia, set up and quality checked in Los Angeles before shipping. The pitch is that you are paying for the guitar, not the distribution chain, and parts of that pitch are legitimate. Acoustic Guitar Magazine reviewed the Orangewood Sage Mahogany Live and found the frets free from sharp ends or high spots all the way up the neck, which, as the reviewer noted, is not always the case with other guitars in that price range. The guitar, they concluded, feels more expensive than it is. But here is where the caution applies. Orangewood's lineup spans from roughly $100 to over $1,000. The entry-level Ray sits under $150 and uses layered, laminate, wood front, back, and sides. Their all-solid models begin around $745. The marketing does not always make this distinction obvious, and a buyer who does not know to look for the word solid in the spec sheet may purchase a layered guitar believing they are getting something more. Add to that inconsistent quality control reports, occasional finish cracks, high action, fret buzz on specific units, and Orangewood becomes a brand where the product is not the problem, but the clarity of the proposition sometimes is. If you buy an all-solid Orangewood with a proper setup, you likely have a good guitar. If you buy the entry-level model without understanding what layered wood means, you have a laminate instrument dressed in California branding. Brand number 4, Epiphone. This one will surprise some people because Epiphone makes genuinely good guitars. But the context matters more here than almost anywhere else on this list. Epiphone began as the Stathopoulos Instrument Shop, founded in 1873, adopting the Epiphone name in 1928. Gibson bought the company in 1957. Since 2004, the overwhelming majority of Epiphone acoustic guitars have been built in Gibson's factory in Qingdao, China. A small number of premium models, including the USA Frontier and USA Texan, are built in Bozeman, Montana, where Gibson's own acoustics are made. Here is the specific problem. The Chinese-made Epiphone Masterbuilt Frontier costs around $799. The USA-made Masterbuilt Frontier costs around $3,999. That is 5 times the price for what is nominally the same guitar name. The USA version uses genuine bone hardware, mother-of-pearl inlay, premium electronics. The Chinese version uses new bone, pearloid, Indian laurel instead of rosewood. These are real differences, but are they $3,200 differences? The honest answer is probably not. And that gap between what the Gibson Epiphone name implies and what you actually get at each price point is where the caution lives. The Chinese Epiphone Masterbuilt acoustics are frequently described as needing a proper setup out of the box. The bones of the instrument are often fine. The execution on arrival is often not. A buyer paying $799 for a guitar expecting Gibson-adjacent quality without the need for additional investment is going to be disappointed. Buy an Epiphone knowing it is a Chinese-made guitar at a Chinese-made price point with a setup on arrival, and it may serve you well. Buy it expecting the Bozeman standard because Gibson owns the company, and you will have a different experience. Brand number 5, Taylor. Taylor is on this list with the clearest caveat of all. Taylor makes excellent guitars. The issue is not quality. The issue is value, pricing structure, and what you are actually getting at different price points. Bob Taylor and Kurt Lustig founded the company in 1974 and helped them move California. Andy Powers became a third ownership partner in fall 2019. On January 11, 2021, Taylor became 100% employee-owned through an ESOP structure. the first US guitar company to do so for both its American and Mexican workers. In 2019, the year before the transition, Taylor manufactured 170,000 guitars and recorded worldwide revenues of $122.4 million. Here is the structure of that output. Taylor's 300 series and above, the American instruments, are built in El Cajon with all solid wood construction. Taylor's 100 and 200 series, the GS Mini, the Baby Taylor, and the Academy series are built in Tecate, Baja California, Mexico, with solid tops and layered laminate back and sides. That is not inherently a problem. A solid top with layered back and sides is a legitimate guitar at the right price. But when you are paying Taylor prices, and Taylor prices have risen across the board as wood, labor, shipping, and material costs have increased industry-wide, you need to know exactly what tier of construction you are paying for. The tone criticism that follows Taylor on every guitar forum is consistent enough to be worth naming. Taylor guitars are described as bright, clinical, articulate, precise in a way that many players find less warm, less full, less alive than what you get from a Martin or a Guild. That is a preference, not a defect. But if you are spending $1,200 on a Taylor, and you have never played one long enough to know whether you like its voice, you may find yourself with an instrument that feels expensive and sounds correct and does not move you. Taylor's reputation is earned. The guitars are well made. The setup is usually excellent out of the box. Bob Taylor's quote on the ESOP transition speaks to a company with real values. Becoming 100% ESOP allows us to ensure our independence for the long-term future. That is a real commitment. But at the price Taylor charges, particularly in the mid-tier, you owe it to yourself to play one long enough to know if its voice is yours before you commit. The 3 brands that last a lifetime. Brand number 1, Martin. C.F. Martin & Co. was founded in 1833 by Christian Frederick Martin in New York City. He relocated the company to Nazareth, Pennsylvania in 1839, and it has been there ever since. The company is still family-owned, now in its 6th generation, with Christian F. Martin IV serving as chairman and CEO. That continuity is not a marketing point. It is the context for everything Martin does. A company that has been building guitars in the same town for nearly 2 centuries does not need to reinvent its product every 5 years to survive. It needs to protect a standard. And the standard Martin has protected through the Depression, through World War II, through the acoustic guitar boom of the 1960s when they were building 130,000 to 140,000 guitars annually, is one of the most documented standards in musical instrument history. Martin is credited with large-scale adoption of X-bracing around the 1850s and with inventing the dreadnought body shape, the standard acoustic guitar silhouette that every other builder on this list references in some way. Their pre-war scalloped, forward-shifted bracing and Adirondack spruce tops remain the benchmark against which vintage acoustic guitars are measured. The flagship models are the D18 and the D28. The D28, Sitka spruce top, Indian rosewood back and sides, forward-shifted scalloped X bracing, has been in continuous production in essentially the same form for generations. New street prices on the D28 vary, but they are not entry-level instruments. They are investments. Martin offers a limited lifetime warranty to the original owner for as long as that owner owns the guitar. Read that document carefully because it is specific. The warranty covers defects in materials and workmanship. It does not cover normal wear, frets, nuts, saddles, bridges, strings. It does not cover humidity cracks, finish checks, or action changes due to climate. It does not transfer to a second owner. It applies only to guitars purchased from authorized dealers in the US and Canada. It explicitly does not cover tone complaints. And it does not apply to the Little Martin, the Backpacker, or the 1 Series. None of that undermines the guitar. It means the warranty is a backup, not a crutch. A Martin D28 bought new and maintained with care, kept at appropriate humidity, set up correctly, played regularly, will outlast its owner. Elvis Presley played a Martin. Paul McCartney played a Martin. Eric Clapton, John Mayer, Johnny Cash, Bob Dylan. The instrument is not legendary because of the players. The players reached for Martins because the instrument was legendary. If a D28 is out of reach, Martin's Epson Road series, made in Navajo, Mexico, offer a more accessible entry point. They are not the same as the Nazareth instruments, but they carry the setup, the quality control, and the name. Brand number 2, Yamaha. The Yamaha FG Acoustic series launched in 1966. It is now in its 8th generation. And the FG800, the flagship budget entry, has been one of the most consistently recommended acoustic guitars in the world, for a simple reason. At roughly $200, it has a solid, simple spruce top. That is unusual. At $200, most manufacturers give you a laminate top. Yamaha gives you solid spruce and adds scalloped bracing, a feature they introduced to the FG line in 2016. The result is a guitar that projects better than its price suggests, with Guitar World noting that the FG800's projection puts some more expensive offerings to shame. The limitations are real. The nut and saddle are urea plastic. The back and sides are laminate NATO and okume. Some units come from the factory with action that needs adjustment. Rough fret edges are reported occasionally, but the solid top is the thing that matters. A $200 guitar with a solid spruce top, scalloped bracing, and Yamaha's consistent quality control is a guitar that will still be worth playing in 20 years. The tone will develop, the instrument will open up, and if you eventually spend $40 upgrading the plastic nut and saddle to bone, you have a significantly better guitar for a total of $240. Yamaha began making instruments in 1887. Organs and pianos first, guitars later. The institutional knowledge behind a Yamaha acoustic is not trivial. The FG800 is not a guitar that tries to be something it is not. It is an honest instrument at an honest price, and it delivers. Brand number 3, Seagull. The first Seagull guitars were built in 1982 by Robert Godin in La Patrie, Quebec, a village in the eastern townships with a population of roughly 475 people, where approximately half the residents are involved in building guitars. Seagull is part of Godin Guitars, the company Robert Godin began building in Quebec in 1972. Every Seagull guitar is made in Canada. The factory runs on hydroelectric power. The wood is sustainably sourced, and every Seagull uses a solid, pressure-tested top, no exceptions. The construction details tell the story. Compound curved tops that resist humidity-driven warping, custom sculpted Sitka spruce bracing, integrated set necks, two-way truss rods, Tuisk nuts, a synthetic material developed to replicate the tonal properties of bone. Compensated saddles. The flagship model is the Seagull S6 Original. It has been on the market for over 40 years. Solid cedar top, wild cherry back and sides, silver leaf maple neck, rosewood fingerboard, and a 1.8-inch nut width that accommodates fingerstyle players who find standard nut widths narrow. Current pricing lands around $500. At $500, the S6 competes with Taylor's Mexican-made entry guitars and undercuts Martin's American entry points significantly. What it offers that those competitors do not is a Canadian-made, all-solid top instrument from a family-owned company that has never chased volume at the expense of standard. There are no Seagull factory outlet guitars. There are no Seagull budget laminate lines designed to hit a $99 price point. The brand makes one kind of guitar, a good one. Robert Godin's philosophy, build it once, build it right, build it in Canada, has produced one of the guitar world's best-kept secrets for 4 decades. The players who know Seagull tend to keep Seagull, and the guitars they bought in the 1980s and 1990s are still being played. What this all comes down to, in 2021, 1.85 million acoustic guitars were sold in the United States at an average price of $590. A meaningful number of those guitars are sitting in closets right now, unplayed, because they were too hard to play when new, or because they sounded fine for a year and then stopped sounding interesting, or because the buyer outgrew them in the worst possible way, by getting good enough to hear what they were missing. The difference between a guitar that ends up in the closet and a guitar that ends up in someone's hands 50 years from now is almost always the same thing. Solid wood, proper setup, a manufacturer who understood that a guitar is not a product you replace, it is an instrument you keep. Rogue and First Act give you a playability problem in the first week. Jasmine gives you a laminate instrument dressed in a respected name. Orangewood gives you a California story and, at the lower price points, a layered guitar that can't develop the way solid wood does. Epiphone gives you a gap between expectation and reality that a $799 price point makes harder to forgive. Taylor gives you a well-built instrument whose voice may or may not be yours, at prices that require you to do your homework before you commit. Martin gives you 1833, a lifetime warranty, and a dreadnought that has survived everything the 20th century could throw at it. Yamaha gives you a solid spruce top at $200, and the institutional knowledge of a company that has been building instruments since 1887. Seagull gives you a Canadian-made, pressure-tested, all-solid guitar with 40 years of the same philosophy and a community of players who found it and never looked elsewhere. One test. Look at the sound hole edge. If you see layers, keep walking. If the grain runs clean and continuous, you are holding something worth your time. The guitar you buy today should still be worth playing the day you stop. If that standard sounds simple, it is, because it is. The brands on this list that earn it have been building to that standard for decades. The ones that don't are counting on the fact that most buyers never ask the question. Now you know to ask. If you own a guitar that has outlasted everything you expected from it, drop the brand in the comments. This channel follows the instrument, not the marketing. Subscribe if you haven't. We measure quality, not trends.